Hey friends, Victor Pisano with Charge Up, another episode of our series called Building the Champions Mindset. Very excited today. I've got Samantha Shao, who was recently a graduate of Oklahoma State University, now professional softball player. We'll talk more about that as we get into the interview. But I got to go over some of these accolades because, as usual, I don't know how I get lucky, but I get these players that are freaking amazing. So we'll start with her first 3 years at Texas A&M, where she was an NFCA Top 25 Freshman of the Year, 2016 SEC All Freshman Team, 2017 All SEC Preseason Team, 2017 and 2018 NFCA All South Region First Team. Now let's jump to her senior year at OSU. 2019 All Big 12 Honors, 2019 All American. So you heard that correct. All American. And here's a pitcher who set the OSU single season home run record with 20 dingers. From the circle all the way down to the batter's box, you can count on Sam Chow. Period. Period. It's crazy to me. How do you do that? I mean, you're the dual threat, Sam.
I've been doing that's what I wanted to do. I've been a pitcher, hitter, first baseman for as long as I can remember. And if I'm not producing at one end, then I definitely have to produce at the other end. So it's hard and it takes a lot of time, but I love it so much that it's fun.
Well, tell me how you're doing. Everything going good on your end?
Yeah, everything's going good. Trying to get back into softball shape now that it's getting a little bit closer. But I've really enjoyed this downtime because I don't know the last time I've had this much time to do absolutely nothing. So it hasn't been bad.
It's crazy. As many coaches and players that I've talked to, they're like, spring break, Easter,
Right.
graduation. I mean, they're like, never have I ever experienced no plans. We'll jump into this thing, and I don't want to start this on the wrong foot, but I just want to get it out of the way at the beginning. And I don't normally start an interview off with something negative, but in an effort to move on from past situations and to focus on the present, what I'd like to do is put closure to the question that I think everybody asks when they interview you. And I apologize again, but why it became such a big deal, I'll never know. But I actually feel like I contributed to it, which I owe you an apology for. And the thing is why does everybody relate you to being benched by Sam Fisher? I mean, okay, it's out there. Everybody knows it. It's something everyone around the nation is talking about. But I'm exhausted by the controversy. If you don't mind, I want to show the clip to our viewers. Hopefully you'll choose to respond. We'll just get to that point when we get there. Let's go ahead and roll the clip. Simple game, simple rules. I think you've heard it before. We're going to play start them, bench them, and cut them.
Oh, I'm out of here. Bye.
So here we go. Okay, so player number 1, Amanda Chittister.
Oh.
Player number 2, Sam Chow. Player number 3, the Jade Hewitt. And this is start them, bench them, cut them.
I wish I could pretend my internet was going out right now so I didn't have to answer that. Because I know one of them will cut me physically.
Physically.
If I cut her. Oh my God, cut one, bench one, start one. Well, oh dear. Okay, well, I got to start Jade Hewitt because I'm terrified of her. I'm gonna have Chitty coming off the bench, and I'm gonna cut Sam Chow because I know she'll forgive me because I'll just buy her McDonald's.
She'll bounce back. I mean, she's strong and she's resilient.
Yeah.
It's only fair that we get your take on this, Sam. I'm hoping you are willing to answer, but how does that make you feel? And to be cut using McDonald's fries as a justification?
I was surprised. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some McDonald's. But to cut me like Jade? Really? You're that afraid of Jade? At least throw like a Dr. Pepper in there or something, or even like a full meal. A Happy Meal. Give me a toy, something. But hopefully this is the last this is talked about. Definitely need to talk with Sam, get that figured out. But it is what it is.
I appreciate that. I know that wasn't easy to handle, but if I go back and we talk about maybe a Happy Meal, large Dr. Pepper during a good toy time, you think everything can be cleared up?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, let's move on into the interview. We'll get serious here and we'll get you back into the softball mode. One of the things that I always find intriguing is we always look from the outside in when certain situations occur. One thing especially is the portal. And if that word hasn't taken on a whole new meaning this year, I don't know what has, but I'd love to get a player's perspective on what it is like to transfer, because I know you made an extremely difficult decision that a lot of athletes have to make at the collegiate level. You transferred from Texas A&M University following your junior year to go play at Oklahoma State. Can you explain to me just what was that process like for you, and what was it like leading up to the decision and having to have closure in one area and begin a new life in another?
Yeah, it was difficult. It wasn't just something that I thought about and like made a rash decision. At the end of the year, so we lost to Florida in super regionals. And that's when it kind of hit me like, okay, something needs to change. I'm not happy. I don't feel like I'm getting the respect that I deserve. And so we get back to College Station, and obviously I'm talking with my parents. I'm trying to figure out if this is the absolute right decision. We have end of the year meetings, and I go in there and I try to explain to the coaching staff how unhappy I am. Obviously my senior year, I want to love it and I want to enjoy it. I would have been given opportunities to start more and have those leadership roles, but it wasn't because they wanted it. It was because they needed it. That senior class, my junior year, was such a consistent, they were consistent leaders throughout my 3 years there. So they were losing a lot of that and they needed someone to step up. But I went in there in my meeting and I felt like my point wasn't understood and taken seriously. So I took another week to think about it, pray on it. And then I went in there and I explained that it wouldn't be fair to the team or myself to stay here. And so I left. It was hard. I mean, like, that's not an easy thing to go into a coach's office and tell them you're leaving. From what I understand with the portal, I don't think that necessarily has to happen now. I transferred a little bit earlier than the portal. But that was a really tough thing, especially knowing that like your senior year, a lot of these schools may not even have any money for me. That was the biggest thing for me. I didn't want to go somewhere where, I would have to pay a lot. As sad as that is, we didn't have any funds saved, but it was a scary time waiting for my release papers and then having some restrictions on those. It was really sad, but OSU was actually the first school I reached out to, and that was my first visit, and it was the best decision for me. But it's a hard process because you want to make sure you end up in the right spot, right? You're only really given one transfer. So I took my visits to other places, really asked the hard questions, and it worked out for me in the long run. And I know it's worked out for a lot of other athletes as well.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about, you want to make sure it's the right fit. In your case, what's so unique is you only had 365 days left of that puzzle piece fitting. So I know in your mind, you're going through the process of what a lot of people aren't. So in other words, most are like, okay, I'm going to probably have to earn my keep and hopefully my last year I'll be able to start. You had 1 year left, which means you had to jump in and literally go from first to fifth gear to show what you were capable of, what you could contribute. And from what I see, hear, and read about that team your senior year, that there was just a sense of chemistry and of joy to the game. I think it's a compliment to you, because when I hear player interviews, they talk about the leadership you brought in. So rare for somebody to come in their senior year and earn the opportunity to lead a team. Was that what you were looking for? Was that deep down all you ever wanted?
Absolutely. I felt like at A&M I led more by example. And in my junior year, I was really trying to lead more with like my words and stuff. So I was already trying to get that. And then one thing's on my visits that I made for sure is that I needed that leadership role. And OSU was like, we need a leader. We need someone to take everything, and we need like a spark. We need it. And so that was really nice knowing. And the staff there, the coaching staff, they told me straight up, the softball, you're good at softball. Like the softball is probably not going to change. What's going to change is how you talk to people and the relationships you make. And they wanted to make me a better person, which they did successfully. I'm very thankful. So, and I was studying leadership in college as well. So I was lucky enough to have that transfer from A&M to OSU as well. So it was a really good environment, and I think it's going to help me. And it even helped me going from OSU to Scrapyard, just because that was such a huge jump. When I went over to Italy, it was very helpful, the lessons that coaching staff and that team gave me.
It takes a tremendous amount of vulnerability to make that kind of decision. I know you're close with your family, and I can only imagine the discussions that took place prior to that decision. But the Sam Child that I saw on the field her senior year, was it the most fun you had playing ball in a long time?
Yes. And that was the thing that I wasn't doing my first 3 years. And when I had officially left A&M, my mom was like, I need to see that 8-year-old Sam with the huge smile on her face, just having fun. And so that's what I told Coach D. I was like, I need to be out there. Like I'm 8 years old at recess, just running around with my head off. Cause that's how I knew myself to play the best. And I was very lucky enough to get that, and I think I helped some of my teammates understand that same concept, and I think that's why it looked like we were having so much fun, and the chemistry was so good between not just the team, but the team and the coaching staff and our supporting staff.
Did you take the purple hair with you to OSU, or did that stay in College Station?
No, that stayed, and as people continued to ask me, I was like, why am I not doing that? And I think what it was is that was me trying to express myself at A&M. And when I got to OSU, I didn't need color hair to do it. I was just doing it through my play. So that's why the color hair didn't make an appearance my senior year.
So that's a pretty cool way to actually show in hindsight, there's one tangible thing that changed. I didn't know that story. Yep. We can call that an exclusive. I like that. Now, is there possibly a chance something could happen during your second year with Scrapyard? Could we see a hair change color? Or is that
it was honestly in the works? It was, I've thought about it, not so much like purple or blue, but like an actual like bye-bye blonde. But that's a really big decision, and I don't know if I'm ready for it yet.
We'll call it a wait and see.
Okay.
That'll make people are going to stay tuned for this. Just I need to break the story first.
Right.
So keep me in on that loop. So as we build onto the core discussion that I try to carry with building the champion's mindset, now that you've been out of college, now that you've played professional ball, you've got some experience and wisdom and have observed enough to really understand what's going on. Help me understand, what are some of the most prominent obstacles that you faced as a student athlete and as a pro that you found solutions to? And then the second part of that question is, what do you see right now student athletes facing in terms of adversity or obstacles that you could offer some advice to them to help them out? In other words, hindsight being 2020, the lessons you learned and the solutions you found that may be able to apply to them today.
In college, for me, I would have to say the things that led up to my transfer. So my freshman year at A&M, I started a lot. You know, they relied on me a lot. They relied on our whole freshman class. It wasn't just me. Just our freshman class was like, they called us the Fab Four. And from there, my playing time went down. And I don't know if it was they lost trust in me or they lost respect for me. Something changed and it wasn't getting communicated to me. And so I had to make that decision to either just stick it out and tough it out and not love the game, not love where I'm at, not love life anymore, or make that tough decision to kind of leave the people that I'm closest with, which was my class. We, you know, have those hard decisions and then try to go find a new home in a very in a month span, because summer, it's not as long as everyone thinks it is in college, especially for me. It never felt long. So that was a really tough decision. Being a new person anywhere isn't easy. And especially for me, I didn't make friends easily. I didn't trust people easily. So that was a really tough decision for me to do. But what I learned from it, and I wouldn't have learned it without the people at OSU, with the team, the coaches. I trust people better now, and I'm able to make relationships a little easier, friendships. I'm just better at communicating what I need from other people. And just going from college ball to pro ball, I didn't play a lot in my rookie season. There were so many amazing athletes on that team last year that I was coming off the bench a lot and getting my pinch hits. But what I learned from that is I was just watching some really great athletes play. I was surrounded by so many knowledgeable individuals playing with like Aubrey Leach. I have played against her in select ball since I can remember, and we were finally on the same team. I even played her in college. Like, I couldn't get away from her, and now we're on the same team, and I don't have to pitch to her and her get on every freaking time, you know? But just not so much about actually playing, but learning more, playing outfield, which I never did, just getting more knowledge about the game and falling in love with the game more. And playing against like Team USA last year was amazing in itself.
I can only imagine that experience when you step on the field and you just look around, you're like, I have loved these players since I can remember. Like, this is why I play the game right here. For those that don't know, Scrapyard had 2 teams. And that was the great thing, is y'all were able to compete against each other. So it was a large roster, which meant a ton of All-Americans, the best players in the United States. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be playing the Olympic team. So those 3 teams had some of the best players, you know, ever to play the game, which is phenomenal. And as a rookie, wow. Like, I can't even imagine you walking in that first day and pinching yourself like, I'm really here. There seems to be a strong correlation with a lot of players right now who, even though we preach and preach, they still tend to refer to their value based on their performance. And this fear of failure has taken over the player. And it's become something that really needs attention. And I know so many coaches work on it. We strive to identify the fact that you are not defined by being a softball player. You are a person. What advice can you give some of these players right now who still struggle with the fear of failure?
I think we need to understand that softball is a game of failure. Like, you're going to fail more than you win. And that's a really hard concept to kind of grasp. It took me a very long time. My first 3 years, if we lost, like, I was not a fun person to be around afterwards. You know, I had my family there and I couldn't even enjoy that time with them because I was so mad about the game losing. But also knowing that if I was getting so many opportunities to do what I wanted and I'm not producing, then I felt like my chances to do those things that I love were going to get taken away from me. So one thing that helped me a lot was just focusing on your at bat, that pitch you're throwing, the play you're making, just focusing on that, and then understanding you'll get another one. It may not be the next pitch. It may take a little bit, but you're going to get your opportunity again, and you have to make the most out of those opportunities. And once I understood that and not putting so much pressure on myself, I was able to play freer, and those losses, the failures, they didn't hurt as bad, and I was able to flip that switch on to the next thing really quickly. Especially with hitting, if you're in the starting lineup, you're going to get at least 2 at bats. And if you strike out for some reason that first at bat, you have another one. You know that. Maybe trying to have a little bit more open communication with your coaches to let them know what you're thinking in those moments, talking with your teammates. What do you need to hear from them when you strike out or when you boot a ball or when you throw, when you walk someone? Having that open communication. I mean, if you go back, there is an at bat against Texas Tech. It was a full count. The pitcher threw a nasty changeup. I literally bounced on my back knee because I couldn't hit it. Struck me out. My ego was hurt more than anything, and not letting the failures affect what's about to happen next. But I do understand it's a hard thing to understand and get, but once you get it, it makes the game so much more fun.
Do you think you got it your senior year? And the reason I ask, I watched a lot of press conferences with you, and I'll use one in particular in the series against Oklahoma. You had this attitude of, hey, we're going to be okay. Like, you know what? Yeah, it was a loss, but what matters is when we go to the NCAA series. That's what's going to matter. And I almost heard you reinforcing to yourself, it's okay. Like, that's a finite moment. That's part of the process. The big picture, we're not there yet. We have to learn from this. You use that phrase a lot. Like, we got to learn from this. I think they were a great team, but I think we can hit off of them and we're going to be fine. So did it come your senior year?
Yes. And I talk about it so much, like losing didn't even faze me. Like, yeah, I was mad for a little bit, like maybe 5 minutes after the game. But after that, I was like, okay, we're either going to have another one tomorrow or Wednesday or the next weekend. And I think honestly, it was because of the people that were surrounding me and trusting my teammates to do the job that they're supposed to do. I think that was when my first 3 years, I was so focused on, like, I wanted the big moment. I wanted to make that pitch. I wanted to do all that stuff. And once I put the team ahead and trusting them, like if it wasn't my at bat, it was going to be Kylie's at bat to go up and get on base or something. I mean, I think that's why I got it my senior years, because there wasn't, it was all about them. And I wanted the team to win so freaking bad.
It was evident from those news conferences. And when you say that, I can see where that transformation took place, which probably lessened the amount of pressure you placed on yourself. To have that kind of freedom, you can explore new things, you can improve in new areas and take on skills that even though you think you were at 100%, you could go further. You raised the bar that season. Great correlation with the fact that you were studying leadership. I'm a leadership nerd. That's something that since the days of Zig Ziglar, I found it fascinating. Not necessarily the people who lead, but why do people follow? And, my big thing is influence. I believe influence really is leadership. But I want to get your perspective. With your experience and wisdom now out of college, playing pro, how has your definition of leadership changed from, let's talk about, when you were playing in Houston, Pearland, when you were playing in Houston in high school, to today as a professional. What's changed your definition of leadership?
Knowing that the more you listen, the better you'll lead. So understanding that, for softball example, like your followers are the girls on your team, right? So knowing that you're going to listen to them and what they need, what they want, and how you can make that happen. When I was at OSU, I wanted to lead by my voice, but I never had to, because everyone just did it, because we knew that our points were getting across to one another and we were listening and we all had the same goal. And what that did for me in Scrapyard is I did a lot of listening. One, because I knew that there was a lot to learn, but also when I would go out and get my opportunities, I wanted my teammates to trust me that I would go out and get the job done. And so listening to people, if Sam Fisher was going to come up to me and be like, this is what this girl's throwing and this is what she's going to throw you, I had to make sure that I was listening to her. Or Taylor Edwards, she knew how to throw to the batters. And I had to trust her and listen to her and know that I may not be in the top leadership role right now, but allowing them to trust me, I trust them. It would help me get, maybe a little bit higher up. But just listening is the big thing for me, not so much talking and not so much instructing or coaching, just a lot of listening and trust.
So speaking of Scrapyards, I want to congratulate you. You were signed again for a second year.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How do you feel? What are you looking forward to? When do you report to camp?
I'm excited. It's really nice considering I'm from Houston and I get to play for a Houston team. But we're getting a lot of USA players on our team. And so playing with Monica Abbott, Kat Osterman, Kalani Ricketts, like, again, it's going to be another year where if I barely get a little playing time, I'm not even going to be upset because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot and just being surrounded by so much greatness. But also playing along people that I've played with last year, like Aubrey and Riley. It's going to be really fun. Training starts June 15th, and we're teamed up with the Pride. So it's not like we're going to be playing national teams like we were last year. We're playing competition, and I think it's going to be really fun. I think the world is missing it right now. So we're going to have a lot of support. Not saying that we didn't before, but just a lot of people are eager to watch and to be at the ballpark.
Absolutely. And you say we're just going to have our series with the Pride. It's going to be competitive, but people have to understand that Team USA's roster is still within those two teams. So you again are going to have a field that is full of legends, full of people who had to wait from 20 to 21 to go to the Olympics. I mean, for 2 years to have that experience, that's going to carry with you for the rest of your life. Just the humility that you talked about of listening. I think that's a great trait for players to comprehend. A person who has set multiple records, an All-American from college, her lesson in this transformation has been listening. I can imagine there are a lot of student athletes who could benefit their career if they listened a little bit more. They were a little bit more humble, a little bit more vulnerable. I don't know if I'd ever want to say a word with that many incredible athletes on the field. But the great thing is it's your second season. They know you. They trust you. I mean, you found a home. And for you to get called up for a second year, that's phenomenal. Congratulations. I know you're excited. And you're right. Like Scrapyard always has a great crowd. People are itching to go watch softball. So what is it? We have a few more days until we can get this thing started, kids on the field playing again. I had my experience with 2 daughters who played 10 years. I absolutely loved it, every minute of it. Then I was able to go with the NPF and work with the Texas Charge. Absolutely loved it. And it just became a part of spring and summer. So I'm with you. Like, I cannot wait to see players on a field again doing what they do best. So tell me, who's had the biggest impact on you and why?
I'm going to say it was the coaching staff at OSU, because from my visit, they were talking to me like a person, like I was already on the team. And I feel like it was the same when I committed and I got there in the summer. Nothing changed. They saw me for who I was the second I walked in there. And that was something that I never had before. Coach G was literally like, Sam, you put on this hard exterior, but you're not. And I was like, ooh, what? I learned so much about myself there, more than I have. And I was like 22 years old. Like, I went through 22 years of life without understanding who I was truly. I'm very emotional. I play with a lot of emotions, and even like in my personal life, I'm pretty emotional, and they taught me how to use that to my advantage. And, I have a hard time with my tone sometimes. And if I said something wrong, Coach G was like, Sam, say it again. Like, think about how you need to say that differently. And I was like, oh, okay. But just the realness that I had with my coaching staff and the communication between us, it helped me so much, and it showed me what that relationship was actually supposed to look like. Whatever comes my way, I'm going to be better prepared because of that staff.
Can you still call upon that staff as mentorship to help you when you need it or you get in your own head?
Oh, yeah. It's always funny because I was in there every day. Every time I go into Coach G's office, what do you want now, Chow? Like, it was a joke because I was in there so much, and I'm always constantly asking questions and trying to get better. But it was kind of sad. So I was up there my last year helping coach first base, and because of the virus, I had to leave so suddenly. Like, I didn't even get to say bye. So I'm really eager to get back up there, just see everybody again, hopefully work some camps with them. But yeah.
So let's close this way. I always like to have something encouraging, at least a lesson that somebody can take out of this? For the young kid watching this, so let's say a young student athlete who is in high school and has aspirations, they want to play at the next level. What advice can you give them to have a fulfilled career? And I don't always say successful, because success sometimes can be empty. But if it's a fulfilled career, and I hear it when you talk about your senior year in college, what advice can you give them to have a fulfilled career?
So when you're going throughout that recruiting process, making sure that you're going to be in an environment where you're going to feel comfortable, right? So one thing that I wish I would have known going throughout my process as a 14-year-old is realizing that I prefer male coaches over female coaches. Taking stuff like that and really thinking about how that's going to affect you in college. If you're getting to go to softball camps that university is hosting, maybe asking the players that don't get a lot of playing time what it's like playing there, what it's like playing for that coach, what the environment's like. And it's going to be difficult to ask those questions, but you have to remember you need to be happy. You need to be comfortable where you're at. Softball's a game, right? Games are supposed to be fun. And if you're not having fun, you have to think about those things. Like if you're not going to have fun there, it's probably not the place for you. Ultimately, the education is important, but softball's like the cherry on top. And if you're not having fun, then that's going to make school hard and all that stuff. So think about questions that are things that are important to you. And if you'll have that in that university you're visiting. Going to a lot of camps, though, I think it's going to be really helpful for that. But your happiness is the most important. And that's why I made my transfer, because my happiness wasn't where it needed to be. So thinking about those things now, and it's your decision, and just ending up in a place where you're going to be comfortable and happy.
And your story comes from someplace that's real, the humility that you had to face and the struggle that you had to go through, but the reward. I mean, you couldn't have ended your career any better. You probably could have with a national championship, but
right.
As far as being fulfilled, what a great way to end it. And what a compliment to the coaching staff at OSU that prepared you to become a pro. And not only a pro, but a second year. You're not a rookie anymore. You're a second year pro.
Not a rookie anymore.
No more. You don't tell Sam to carry the buckets. You're not going to do it anymore. You're a second year pro. Sam, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. And after the controversial situation she put you in, I knew that hopefully I could be the one who brings you all together. I wanted to be that liaison. Right. And I think
Thank you.
A couple of happy meals are going to make this situation good. And that way, the last thing I want to see is y'all two just brawling in a parking lot. So, and especially if Jade jumps in. Apparently, if Jade comes, it's all over. The hitman.
Oh, man.
But thank you. I appreciate you for being on the show. And how about this? I want to touch base when we get going in the season, and you tell me how much fun it is playing out there with the pros and the fans. I know the fans are going to be filling those places up every time you play. But how about we do a follow-up on the road?
I am so down. I'll do it.
Let's do it. Sure. Let's do it. Well, friends, there you go. You've got Sam Shaw, one of the best players that, play the game. You're talking about an All-American here who used such a great example of one of the leadership traits being listening, who talked about the difficulty of transferring. Too many people think it's just a decision based off entitlement. And in reality, if you want to have a career of fulfillment, if you want to achieve the goals, if you want to affect others, if you want to make an impact, sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. And being a leader is a lonely job. If you don't think she felt the repercussions from that switch, you're crazy, because she was just a 21-year-old kid and she had to go through that, but it just made her better. So if you learn anything, if you take anything away from today's show, just understand that sometimes resiliency is what's going to make you good to great. And if you stick by those laurels and stick by who you are with the core values and the non-negotiables, you can be anything you want to be. You can achieve anything. And don't focus on the field. Focus as a person. And you saw that with Sam today. So thanks for joining us, Sam. Thank you. Hope everybody has a great day. And don't forget, my friends, charge up.